Hi everyone, it's me Julie. In this video, we will learn about the use of adjective and noun clauses. It is important for you to understand the structure of the clauses as you might find them in the structure and written expression section. Firstly, I'll explain about adjective clauses. The function of adjective clauses is to modify nouns, either the noun as the subject or maybe as the object in a sentence. Adjective clauses gives more information about the noun. As for the connectors, we've got who, whom, which, and that. Who is to explain people. Here I have included 3 examples from which we can see different ways to put or to include adjective clause with who in a sentence. You guys know that a sentence must have at least a subject and a verb, right? In the sentence, we can see the subject is the dentist and the verb is. Okay, that is the be verb. But do not be confused that why we have another verb here works. So actually this verb is a part of this adjective clause. So this adjective clause explains the subject. It is also possible to put an adjective clause which is set off by commas like this. Or maybe you can use an adjective clause at the back of the sentence to explain the object, which is the dentist. The second, we've got whom. It also explains people. So this is the subject, this is the verb. So the main sentence was actually the dentist works in our local clinic, but you want to give additional information about the dentist. So you say the dentist whom I have called works in our local clinic. This adjective clause explains the dentist. Okay, now we have who and whom to explain people. Now, can you see the difference? Yeah, the difference is in the structure of the adjective clause. Who is followed by a verb, okay? While whom is followed by a pronoun or a noun. So after whom we have subject and verb. You see the difference here? Now let's move on to which. Actually, which is pretty much like who and whom. The difference is which is used to explain things. In the sentence, this is a subject or a noun, and this is the verb. We've got this adjective clause to explain or to modify the clinic. So you can see the structure of the adjective clause, which, subject, verb. Okay, or you can also use which like you use who, directly followed by a verb, which is essential. And the last is that. That is pretty much like who, whom, and which. That being said, that can replace who, whom, and which. So now please take your time, be familiar with the connectors and also the structure of the clause and the sentence. Now it's time for practice. First, you need to analyze the sentence and determine what is missing. In the sentence, we've got subject and verb. And I think the options A until D indicate the use of adjective clause, which modifies or explains to designer bags as a noun or object. I will eliminate A because the verb is singular, is, while the noun is plural, bags. Of course, it's not B because it is an active one and bags cannot place themselves. I mean, bags cannot do this activity, right? And then I'll eliminate C because it's an active clause and bags cannot do this activity. And if we are sure that 3 out of 4 options are incorrect, then the other one must be the answer. But I still want to analyze it a bit, yeah? The answer is D because the structure is correct and the meaning makes sense. The clause is written in passive. That's quite easy, yeah? Okay, everyone, we have seen the complete structure of adjective clauses in sentence, yeah? Now I'd like to show you the structure of reduced adjective clause. Understanding the structure of reduced adjective clause helps you to be aware of another alternative to fill an incomplete sentence which involves adjective clauses. There are 4 ways to do so. Okay, let's take the first point. If the adjective clause has a be verb, then what you can do is you omit the connector and the be verb. So the reduced form is the movie released yesterday attracted millions of people. Although there is no which or connectors, this reduced form still modifies the movie or the noun. The second point to remember, everyone, if the adjective clause does not have a be verb, then you omit the connector and you change the verb into verb ing. The reduced form is businessmen owning restaurants in the state will be invited to the event. This reduced form explains businessmen. However, you need to remember you cannot reduce every form of adjective clause. You can reduce the adjective clause which is followed by verb or a be verb. But if it is followed by a noun or pronoun, then you cannot. This is one example here. The connector is followed by a pronoun. Then you cannot reduce this. Earlier I showed you an adjective clause which is set off by commas in a sentence. There are several ways to reduce the adjective clause. So this one is not reduced at all. First, because the adjective clause has a be verb, then you can reduce the connector and the be verb. So it can be like this. ITDL students, announced as the winner made us proud. It is also possible to move this reduced form to the beginning of the sentence. It becomes announced as the winner, ITDL students made us proud. So it is still a complete sentence. So we've got adjective clause here, we've got the subject and also the main verb. Now everyone, here is for us to exercise. Okay, in this clause, we've got subject and verb. That means it is complete. Now we just need to find an option to fill this. In here, we've got a comma. It may indicate a sentence with multiple clauses or maybe a sentence with a reduced clause. I will eliminate A because it is not a complete clause. That, he, there was no verb. I will keep B because it is a correct form of reduced clause in passive, yeah? Then I will eliminate C. Well, since from its structure, it can be a reduced form and the structure is correct. But there is a problem with the meaning. Verb ing or present participle means active. Well, you see Jamison here is the student president. He is appointed, not appointing. You get what I mean, yeah? And I will eliminate D because it is incomplete. Therefore, the answer is B. Now you see what I mean. By understanding reduced adjective clause forms, you can be aware of other alternatives of answers to fill incomplete sentence like this. Okay, everyone, that is about adjective clause with complete and reduced structures. Now let's continue with noun clause. The function of a noun clause is as a subject or maybe as an object. The first, you gotta be familiar with the connectors and also the structure of the clauses in the sentence. So here we've got WH question words or maybe whatever, whenever, whether, if, that. For these connectors, possible structures are like this. Subject verb, connector, subject verb. For example, they inform me whether you live there or not. So this is subject, verb, connector, subject, verb. Or maybe you have structure like this. Connector, subject, verb, verb. The clause functions as a subject in the sentence. You still remember, right? A complete sentence must have at least one subject and one verb. One example that I often see in TOEFL test is the use of noun clause with connector that as a subject. For example, the sentence that all of them scored over 500 was not a surprise. It might sound unusual in our language, but there is a sentence like this, yeah? So you gotta be aware. So this whole clause is the subject of the sentence and was is the main verb or be verb. And the sentence is complete and correct. Okay, now let's continue with these connectors like who, whoever, which, whichever, what, and whatever. I separated this one from the first one because the structures using these connectors can be quite different. It is possible to see a sentence with structure like this: subject, verb, connector, verb. This is subject of the sentence, this is the verb or the main verb, and this is the noun clause which functions as an object in the sentence. For example, we will choose whichever functions properly. This is subject, this is the verb, and this is the noun clause. And connector who, whoever, which, whichever, what, and whatever in noun clause as subject usually is followed by a singular verb. Functions. It is a singular verb, right? And the last one, it is possible to see structure like this: connector verb plus verb. So this is a noun clause which functions as the subject in a sentence. And this is the main verb. This is a noun clause and it functions as a subject. And this is the main verb. So the sentence is complete and correct. Take your time, be familiar with the connectors and the structure. And everyone, this is time for practice. Analyze the sentence first and determine what is missing. Okay, now this is that, which is a noun clause connector, and we've got subject and verb. And this whole part here is a noun clause. That means what is missing is the main verb of the sentence. So let's find the verb. I'll eliminate A and C because it has subject and verb. I don't need subject anymore. And I'll eliminate D. Yeah, it is a verb, but the grammar is not correct. The subject is singular. So we need singular verb, which is be. You see, helps. The conclusion is you have to make sure that the structure and the grammar are correct. Okay, everyone, that is the end of this video. I hope this video helps. See you in the next video.